Okay. Sure.
You know what?
We're gonna clap for the viewers.
We'll clap for the viewers. We're not even recording yet. We're just here to talk to our friends. What's up, TGA? What's up, Big Spoon? What's up, Wash?
I'm ready.
Okay, well we can do that. It's Big Spoon. It's all layers, right? It's all different kind of things have different effects on people. A lot of things can be lovely. Lovely is the eye of the beholder. Tiramisu sounds delicious. All right.
I'm going to be making a Bakewell tart this week. That'll be fun.
What is that?
Some British thing that Rachel likes. I don't know. It's
okay.
a kind of pastry.
Sounds tasty.
It's got raspberry jam.
Ooh. That's a high quality jam. All right. I'm going to press the record button.
Recording.
I hear Bodicus's voice. I hear Edelweiss's voice, I think. Say something, Edelweiss?
Something?
Okay. That was very literal. Yes. All right. And we'll test my audio bumpers here. Where is this thing? Okay, bumpers are good.
One day my camera won't be super delayed.
No, one day your internet will be relevant. I'm not willing to blame the camera. I'm pretty sure it is the line between where you are and where I am.
I should call Xfinity about that.
Yeah. I wonder what you should do is do an episode entirely tethered to your phone's hotspot, and if it's faster, then call Xfinity and be like, it is easier to use my cell phone.
Oh God! Yes. My cell phone's AT&T, so
yikes.
That'd be a real sick burn.
Yeah. All right. Let's do some claps. I'm recording. Are you all recording? We're all good.
My lines are moving.
Edelweiss. Lines.
Yes, I have moving lines.
Bodicus disk space. Yep.
I mean, you could have also just clapped, and I would have, or you could have started counting. I would have clapped.
Okay.
Regardless.
Just checking.
You have me trained well.
I am also streaming to the correct Twitch channel, so we have identified all of our flaws. We've put them all out there.
Great.
All right. 3, 2, 1. All right. One clap is good enough. So now we're gonna count down into the show. Thank you everyone for being here.
But I don't like change, and
okay.
You usually
3,
do 2 claps.
2, 1. Edelweiss, don't feel need to clap. That was just for Bodicus. It was just to make Bodicus feel happier.
Oh wow, she's on a delay. She clapped.
It's fine. It's okay. It's okay. We'll figure it out. I nudged your audio a second earlier, anyways, because of I account for it. I account. We'll fix it in post. It's fine. Okay.
Oh, this is gonna be great.
It's always great. It's always great. There's no problem here. It's okay.
It's been like this since I've been using this MacBook.
Correct. Yes. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Greetings.
Hello.
My greetings. Well met. Greetings, traveler. Greetings, friend.
The pleasure is mine.
I got distracted because Wicked Good just swept in THL. Wicked Good, you're the real MVP. Concede to Wicked Good. I'm writing that down. I'm doing that right now. What a boss. It's fine. I'll fix it in post. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Level 69 Hitman Chan, thank you so much for that tier 1 subscription. I'm going to write you down too. Don't worry about it, because I'll do the intro. It's okay. It'll be okay. Hello and welcome to episode 257 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Friday, the 11th of September, in the evening. Joining from Gadgetan, New York, it's me, Ridiculous Hat. From Karazhan, California, it's Bodicus.
Hello.
From Undercity, Pennsylvania, we've got Edelweiss.
Hello, everyone.
And from wherever you are, listener, we've got you. Thank you so much for being here. Oh man, Twitch Prime is popping off. We got a hype train. Big Spoon, thank you for that tier 1. Bodicus, thank you for that prime. The call is coming from inside the house. Thank you, Bodicus.
Yeah, I don't watch a whole lot of Twitch anymore, so I was like, oh yeah, I could use that on this.
Comes free with your subscription. Really helps support the show.
Yeah.
You know what else helps support the show, listener, is you. We are supported by you. If you'd like to find out how you can support us, receive rewards in return, head to patreon.com/CoinConcede. You can also support us by leaving an iTunes review. Totally free. Helps other people find the show. Now, of course, if you are affected by COVID-19, feel free to let us know. If you have to step away from your patronage, totally understand. We will still provide you the benefits. Just shoot me a DM in Discord or on Twitter or whatever will help you out. All right. Life and Ladder. Bodicus, you wrote something. Talk to me.
All right. So for all the listeners who can't see me right now, in my hand, I hold a remote. And what that remote does is it turns on air conditioning.
Oh, man. That's so cool.
And so useful when it's 64 degrees outside right now.
Yes.
But I don't care because I have a freaking air conditioner.
Bodicus,
And
you didn't smack your head.
it might get warm, so
Didn't smack your head.
so good.
I was
What
waiting.
do you mean? Why would I do that?
What did you say? What did I say when you pointed the remote at the air conditioner? Said that's so cool.
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention.
Okay.
I'm just happy that I have an air conditioner, and now it won't be. Even though it's not very hot right now, it might be in the future. So
Yes.
I have access now.
How's your air quality? I guess you're pretty far south.
I'm very far south,
Okay.
so it's fairly unaffected. I couldn't tell yesterday. It almost looked somewhat like the sky almost looked like it had some color in it, but for the most part, it's just been pretty overcast for the past couple days. But I know further up north, the sky's like orange and stuff.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's
That sucks.
this week has been like moderately apocalyptic. West Coast of the United States is kind of in kind of not doing great right now, so we hope all of our friends out there are safe and staying indoors from all the air quality, none of the fires got to anybody. Yeah, it's been a challenging week. I'm glad to hear that you're doing okay and that you have an air conditioner that you no longer need, or at least don't need right now. But someday.
Would have been real nice last weekend, but it's here now, so we're fine. And I guess I should probably talk about Ladder too. So this cool thing came out on Tuesday called Group Q Battlegrounds, and so got to do that. Got to play some Battlegrounds, and boy, am I behind. I have not played enough of that lately, and I am not very good. But thankfully, or well, not thankfully, but unfortunately for the people I was queuing with, who were around 7 to 8K, we got to play against 12K players because I'm still like 10.6 or something. Actually, I might have dropped to 10.5 because I took like a 100-point loss on one of them. But yeah, I was queuing with some friends, and they're like, "Why is there a 12K player in our group?" And I was like, "Sorry." So yeah, still have high MMR and don't have any of the skill to back it up. So gotta get some more of those games in.
Yeah.
But
Bronze Warden's still good, by the way. Still
yeah,
take that one.
I mean, there's still a lot of fun stuff you can do. There's it's just like the meta is so different, and I have to do so much research and figure out like what the new strategies are and common practices and all that stuff. What kind of in general, what generally people are doing. So.
And heroes have changed pretty dramatically, and there are some really juicy hero powers in that weren't in there before. What was the broken hero when you were playing last? Were you playing for Hook Tusk?
Millhouse.
Oh, Millhouse. Oh man, it's been a minute. It's been a little while.
I was still playing. I was still playing a bit when Millhouse got nerfed, but that was like the last one that was just like auto win whenever you got it. After Millhouse, I don't think they had quite introduced any of the super broken ones. But then they had like Eudora and
Hook Tusk was first. Hook Tusk was insane.
Hook Tusk,
and also Sorreless was a 1-star. So that was
But There's been a lot of
Yeah.
changes since
Yeah.
the last time I played. So, and since I haven't been really watching a whole bunch of Twitch as much anymore, I don't know what like the top people are doing. So, I like that was in general. That's how I got really good and how I was able to get up to the rating that I'm at. Is that I was constantly playing and watching high level players, so I had an idea what the strategies were and how to adapt them to my own playstyle. And now I don't have any of that, so it's like not as good. And we have a lot to talk about with group queuing in Battlegrounds, but I really enjoy queuing with 5 or more people that I know, because there's like very little pressure and you get to do all the same fun stuff that a normal Battlegrounds game. And I was surprised how much fun like a 5-player lobby was. I was a little worried that a 5-player lobby would feel too weird, but it was actually pretty cool.
I think basically every private lobby experience I have been a part of or seen has been universally positive, because playing BG with your friends is awesome. Like, it's just really great. Yeah. Were you playing with the guild guys?
I was, yes.
Oh, man. That sounds fantastic.
I was playing with them until they went and started playing Valorant, I guess. So.
Oh, yeah. I guess that's a game.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, end of season Path of Exile is also here, so gotta start also prepping for the new season, which starts on Friday. So too much stuff going on, as I talked about last week. But in a good spot.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Welcome back. There's no Megasaur, by the way. You don't have to worry about Megasaur. He's gone.
Yeah, I had like 4 different minion types, and I played an Amalgadon, and it just got stats, and I was like,
yeah.
Well.
Yeah, though also, Murloc's still really strong. I think they are actually underdrafted right now. But anyways, we'll talk about that. Edelweiss, how you doing?
So, my stomach has been really frustrating this week, and I'm not really sure what's going on with that, but I also, don't want to see someone about it, because I don't want to see anyone.
That's...
I have asthma. I get nervous about COVID stuff, so...
Okay. Oh, yes,
but,
that makes sense.
Yeah. But besides that, my birthday is coming up this week. It's on the 15th, same as Guatemala's Independence Day, and my sister is coming in, so she'll be staying with us for a few days. Just I'm excited to be able to see my family for the first time in a very, very, very long time. So I'm that's one thing that's been on my mind a lot, is my brother is in California, and so I'm worried about him, and also I just haven't seen him in so long. But I've weirdly been playing a bunch of Slay the Spire, I think to
Why is that
counterbalance the
weird?
fact that I'm
Why is Slaying the Spire
so
ever weird?
I'm like very, very late to the... This is like I downloaded it this past week, so I'm super
It's
late.
so good. I still play it at work sometimes. Like when I know I'm not going to have a ton of time, just like queue it up, and it saves the state. You don't have to be connected to the internet.
Yeah, no,
it's so good.
It's pretty amazing. So I put it on the iPad because it was only $10. For some reason, it was more on Steam. So that has been pretty sweet as a sort of when I was not doing all kinds of playtesting with Glee for the Masters Tour this weekend. It's like I was either playing Slay the Spire or doing Masters Tour testing. And now he's playing in it, so we'll just have to sort of see how he does. Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you get to see family, and I'm glad you get to Slay the Spire. I'm curious to see which character ends up being your favorite. I have theories.
Oh, what's your theory?
I cannot reveal my secrets.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think, right, I favor sort of what I'll call trash strategies, like in Dominion. You know how you trash a bunch of cards, so you have like a very small deck size.
Yeah. I think you and Bodicus will have the same favorite character, which is my least favorite character.
It's so good. Ironclad is the best. Ironclad is so good. You get to delete your own cards, and then you also sometimes, like, when your strategy is really good, you get to play the cards that put bad cards in your deck, but then you just get them out of there. And then, yeah.
I'm not sure I've unlocked enough to do that yet, or I just like started playing a little bit to try all of them out. I can't figure out the robot one. I keep dying.
Defect is tricky.
Yeah,
How to
that,
do, like,
that
That'll
one
happen.
happens. That's
Yeah.
the
Try to
hard.
do that.
That's the hardest one. But yeah,
that makes sense.
have you
I
seen?
tried to do a claw strategy and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
Oh.
what we call the debate. That's what we call that. You don't want to do that.
All I have to say though, have you seen the card Corruption yet?
Oh god.
Or you might not know it by name.
Corruption.
It's my favorite card in all of
Probably.
Slay the Spire.
What does it do?
So it's a 3-mana power card that makes all of your skill cards cost 0, but they exhaust, so you only get to play them once.
Huh. Weird.
It's so good. It's super broken.
We'll do a bonus episode
I
on Slay
mean,
the Spire,
yeah.
probably.
We should do that.
Yeah.
What I found most fun was Wanderer. I did an Alpha Omega strat
Yes.
where it's just like all defensive stuff and that, and then I did a Mark strat, and that worked out pretty well.
Pressure points. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
Touch points, yeah.
Watcher is easily my favorite, but we'll talk about it at some other point because we're a Hearthstone podcast. But Slay the Spire is super fun. Have you been playing Hearthstone?
So it was mostly just the playtesting. Tried to play a bit besides on ladder and things, but particularly since the lists and everything were revealed for the Masters Tour. Actually, it's the first time with this expansion where I feel kind of weird about the meta. Mostly because the decks that I like have matchups that you just can't win. Which we were saying how there aren't that many polarized matchups, but I don't know. There are some that feel pretty bad, and for whatever reason, I have been liking decks that have just some really bad matchups. Like either they just lose to Priest or just lose to Bomb Warrior, and it's been kind of weird.
I mean, the meta is, I think we can call it starting to stabilize. At least cores of decks that are clearly strong are starting to stick. And the nerf that got implemented last week, I think we can talk about this a little bit at the top of the show. The nerf so far has reduced diversity. It has not increased it, it has reduced it.
That is what it feels like, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's accurate. I of course, full disclosure, recorded the Vicious Syndicate podcast with Zacho this morning, and he had just like a pile of data. And Warlock looks kind of like not a class. Now Zoo is seeing some play at the Masters Tour. It's possible the good lists weren't on ladder, but so far on ladder, it looks pretty questionable. Priest as well, I think, is still... The builds have not really stabilized in a way that makes the class look all that great. So as of right now, ladder is defined by fewer decks than it was before. Now, also some of those decks were already kind of drifting towards the top of the ladder. There was some organic movement. There was some inorganic movement. But this past week, both what I've played and what I've seen, the mage class is starting to become really what defines the meta more so than any other. I was druid for a while. But now Mage has been by far most of what I've seen. Now, it's not just one deck. There are two decks with pretty different matchup spreads. But it's really like a big portion of Mage, Druid, Warrior, and Demon Hunter with a smidge of Face Hunter. The smidge. And we'll dig into that a little bit more as we get into it. And it's early on. It's early on. But... as of right now, the meta is definitely a little bit less diverse than it was last week. Part of it might be that people are playing it safe because of the start of the season, and the Masters Tour is right now, and they didn't want to play creative, clever stuff. And also part of it is that we've had this meta for a month, and people are realizing what actually works. And those good decks are starting to stand further and further apart from the field as people have gotten more practice with them. So, natural evolution, but it does feel a little different than it did a month ago, and throughout the entire last month when it's like, I have no idea what's going to happen. Though at the same time, I don't mind that things are starting to get to the point where I can say, if I'm expecting these 5 decks, what should I play? I don't mind that we can start to do that. I like that idea. It's kind of...
I mean, 5 decks is still so many more than the majority of Hearthstone metas that we've had, right? Like, how many metas do you know where you're like, there are 5 really good decks that you can expect to see on ladder?
I think most metas have like 5-ish. Not all of them. Ashes was troubled, and I think probably didn't have 5 really clear tier 1 decks for most of its time, but I think in DoD you could have probably picked 4 or 5 decks. Same with, I think, Saviors, probably more than that.
Tier 1?
No, there are no tier 1 decks in this meta.
Saviors definitely, but I would posit that the majority of Hearthstone metas over the course of Hearthstone's career has had about usually no more than 3 top tier decks, and then decks that are still competitive in the meta, but you wouldn't consider tier 1. Like 3 meta defining decks with some off meta choices that you can make and play and do fine with, but I would say that the majority of Hearthstone metas have like 3 decks.
Oh yeah, and this meta is still healthy. I don't mean to say this meta is unhealthy. It is less diverse than it was a month ago, but of course that's going to happen. It is less diverse than it was last week, but last week was the very beginning of the season and not during a Masters Tour. It remains to be seen what's going to happen, but the nerfs hit 2 classes that didn't have a lot going on, and it makes me nervous about how they're going to bounce back when the better classes didn't seem like they got hit. But I also imagine, given the cadence of changes in the past expansion and this expansion, there's no way they're done. So we'll see more going on, and there's still more to learn from the meta as it stands. So I've been playing a bunch of stuff. I looked in this past week, I've definitely picked up some mage reps. I've definitely picked up more Demon Hunter reps. Demon Hunter's still good. Still pretty happy, actually, with both aggro and soul, even though aggro is not really performing as well most of the time. And also, y'all remember how the entire first month of the expansion I was Team J-Bar. I was the J-Bar evangelist. Put Jandis in your decks. Well, we've got a new card that I'm evangelizing. We are now Team Wandmaker. Wandmaker is so good. For those of you that don't know, this is a 2-mana 2/2 neutral card. Battlecry, add a random 1-mana spell from your class to your hand. It is so great. It is Dark Peddler 2020, and I love it so much. And it's very good in Demon Hunter, it's very good in Mage, it's very good in Priest. And I think you could make an argument for it in a couple other classes. Haven't seen it materialize yet, but it's really nice to add extra... Well, in Mage, it's the nuts, because sometimes you hit Ray of Frost, sometimes you hit Devo Missile, sometimes you hit Magic Trick, sometimes you hit Evocation. And those are all, like, good cards. And in Priest, you get Wave, or you get Renew, or Draconic Studies is fine. All the studies are okay. Demon Hunter, a lot of times, it'll get you a Twin Slice, or a Consume Magic, or a Mana Burn. Worst case scenario is Philosophy or Double Jump, but still really, really good overall. So I've been very much enjoying playing with that card. So yeah. And I've learned some Turtle Mage. That deck is strong. That deck's quite good. Have either of you played any Turtle Mage yet?
I haven't had the opportunity.
A little, and I just don't find it enjoyable.
Okay, so I get that, and I'm not disagreeing. I don't mean to say I disagree, because I don't. But I was surprised how often it is just a curve mid-range deck, and then sometimes you play Tortolan at the end.
Yeah.
Like, it is 100%, Steve is saying this in the chat, he's here, is saying Spiteful Mage, 100% Spiteful Mage. I have won many, many games that... Yeah. I played a game yesterday against Aggro Demon Hunter, which is supposed to be a bad matchup. Spellwing, Wandmaker, Imprisoned Observer, Firebrand, Arcane Missiles. I won with 2/2s and 1/1s. I won with Wand Thieves. I won by attacking. Did not play Tortolan. Did not make it to turn 8. Just killed them. Just play minions on curve and just kill them. So, it's nice to have the Tortolan, but a lot of the time I use Pilgrim not just for freezing, but for killing people. And also, by the way, in Wild, this deck is filthy because instead of running Blizzard, you run Ice Block, and you have infinite Ice Blocks. And I killed someone on turn 7 because I just went Cloud Prince, Pilgrim, Cloud Prince, and just 12 you from hand and hit you with my minions. It's pretty gross and wild. It's something.
Yeah, when you added Wave of Apathy to Priest and I didn't want to play it anymore, you really think I'm gonna want to queue up this Turtle Mage deck? Just really feeling like getting in there with the turtles and the mages? Not really.
I didn't ask if you
Not
wanted to play it. I
really
asked if you
my-
had played it.
Oh well, no.
Okay. It'll stay that way. Yeah, it's fine. They'll nerf it. There's. I was talking about this on the Angry Chicken because I have a problem with saying no to podcasts. And basically, I don't foresee them ever leaving a deck in the game where the point of the combo is to remove the ability to attack. Like, that's kind of what you do in Hearthstone, is you take the circles on the board and you drag them places. And just removing that from the game is probably not what was intended or desired. So I imagine that it won't stay a part of the game. It's cool for now, but
It's a super easy fix as well.
extremely. Yeah.
Was that a Blizzard joke? Cool for now.
Yes. In retrospect, it absolutely was. Yeah, we can
I
go with
knew
that.
it wasn't intentional, but I knew you would like it to be, so
Yes.
I had to give it to you.
Yeah. You were probably like, there's no way Hat knows this is a pun.
Why? Okay. Can we get into the news?
Ah,
It's your fault, but
I
Your
know.
You brought it up.
I knew that bad things would happen.
yeah. Because you knew I had no chill.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
All right, so talked about it a bit last week. Patch 18.2 got some. We have the new heroes. We've had a little bit to play with them, including a bit of group queue action. I've had the opportunity to play Omu, and that one's pretty good. I did not do particularly well with them, but I did. I did see it a bunch. It was in a lot of games, and it appeared to be very powerful. So. I expect this to be pretty good, and kind of, I guess the big talk, I think what a lot of people are talking about is Jandis Barov, or no,
Yes.
is it?
J-Bar.
Yeah,
Yep. She is,
So-
at the top 1% of the ladder, she is the best hero in the game. Already. Top
Right.
5% as well. Top 20%, she is second best behind Maiev. And the top archetype. I love that this is an archetype that you can see in HS Replay.
is it Pogo Hopper?
It says Pogo Hopper.
Yeah,
It is the second time I can think of ever where the best archetype was a minion by name. Whereas the first time was just, it said Soralisk. That was just the best thing to do, was just be Hooktusk and just pick Soralisk. Now it is Jandis Barov, and the composition is Pogo Hopper, which is currently also the best composition in the game.
yeah. I don't think that's intentional. I don't think that they wanted. I mean, they might have wanted it for a little bit because Twitch chat always seems to be really into Pogo Hopper strategies, and it's never really been a thing until now. But I don't think that they want a hero in the game that it's just like, okay, you. I mean, kind of like when Deathwing was unnerfed, and everybody would just pick Deathwing and then grab a pack rat early and then level straight to 6 and win. I don't think you want heroes in the game that are kind of live and die by finding that one minion that's super low tier and pretty easy to access.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of things going on with J-Bar. The reason, by the way, for anyone that hasn't played, her hero power swaps a minion on your board with a random minion in the shop. So you swap your Pogo Hopper into the shop, but when you swap, it does not lose buffs. So the first Pogo you buy it, you play it, you swap it, you buy it again, it's a 3/3. Next turn, you swap it again, you buy it again. It's a 3/3, gets +4/+4, it's a 7/7. Next turn, swap it again, 13/13. Next turn, 21/21. Next turn, 31/31. It's the same minion. There's no luck involved because you always are swapping your own minion into the shop. It always lands in the shop. It always costs the same amount of gold to buy. It always buffs by the same amount, and it's always above the curve in terms of stats. So there's no way that this stays the way it is, and you can also pretty easily fix this by making J-Bar silence when she swaps, which I imagine will be an easy fix to maintain the functionality and still have her be really good with battle cries. But as of right now, keeping stats and Pogo is extremely powerful. Super duper powerful. At high levels, it is literally the best hero and composition and class in the game, and you only need one Pogo to do it. Though if you get two Pogos, it's better, and if you get a brand, it's way better. And you have plenty of time to level, because all you're doing is buying the same unit over and over again, and you don't need to do anything else.
You wouldn't silence it, though. You would remove all of the buffs on it, because if you silence it and you have a silenced minion in there and you buy it, then unless it unsilences when it goes to your hand, is that what you're saying?
Sure. I mean, some kind of way to remove buffs when it goes to the shop. Like, yes, it can have text. Like
Right.
it can, if you do a Bronze Warden, it can keep the Reborn Divine Shield. But like the making it not keep buffs is the way to do it.
And then it could still be a cool thing to do Pogos, right? You're still getting the battle cry a bunch of times. It's just not insanely above curve on stats, right? And you do need to find more of them then.
Yeah, like if you're just buying base Pogo Hoppers and you've just bought a lot of Pogo Hoppers, like they're fine, but it's what? It's a 3/3, then a 5/5, then a 7/7, then a 9/9. Like these are stat gains that other players are probably going to have something comparable to. And even then, a single large minion is like a Wrath Weaver. Like it could win some combats but lose some other ones. Like it's fine, whatever. And even if that's good,
it's a 1/1, then it's a 3/3, then it's
5/5,
2
7/7.
No,
9/9.
it's not. It's not a 5/5. Well, with Jandis it is, because you never golden it. But I'm saying other classes, it would be you would golden it, and then it gets +4/+4 twice.
Yeah, I'm
right?
talking about with Janice. You're talking about a change to Pogo Hopper specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Pogo Hopper needs to pay for J-Bar sins. I don't know. We'll see what they do with it. Omu's really good too, by the way. Like, it's the strategy that I found just by looking at HS replay levels. I underestimated this hero, but it's really just your levels cost 2 less, and that's Bartendotron on steroids. It's not a Scuffed Nas Dormo, it's an improved Bartendotron, so you level on turn 4. If you have a token, you can sell it and buy a unit. You level on 6 gold. So you level on 4 gold, you have a token, you can sell it, buy a unit. When you level on 6 gold, you can just buy a unit, which is a turn early. When you level on 8 gold, you can just roll and buy a unit, 2 turns early. And then on 9 gold, when most players are going to 4, you go to 5, and you can still buy. Kind of insane. You just get to be at level 5 a whole turn early at no cost to your board.
Yeah, it seemed powerful. I think it takes like a little bit more getting used to. Whereas my first, I think my operation of it was due to lack of knowledge about the format, less so than power level of the hero. So, there was a bit of an issue in game with Micro Mummy. They added Micro Mummy to Battlegrounds, and then people were finding out that when you goldened the Micro Mummy, it would bug out the game would crash, and you would be kicked from the battleground, which is no good. They took it out of the game, and then they put in the patch for PC, but the mobile patch didn't work right, so they took it out again. So no Micro Mummy for now, but it will return when they're able to figure out whatever issues causing those crashes. There was a nerf to pack leader. I haven't seen a ton of pack leaders. It's pretty interesting. I don't know. When I was playing the couple of games that I was playing, the beasts felt really good.
They are.
Like you were saying, early Mama Bear really solid,
Yeah.
and it
Funny
also
how that
makes a
works.
lot. It also makes a lot of sense actually to have it go Mama Bear into Goldrun, which is interesting. It makes a lot more sense than the other direction because Mama Bear into Goldrun, you get the Mama Bear buffs, and then you can eventually get rid of the Mama Bear for the Goldrun while you already have the buffs, instead of the other way around where you would find the Goldrun first and then you get a Mama Bear late. Like you would see a Mama Bear later, and it just wouldn't matter as much, right? Because you would already have your beasts in play for the most part. So
Yep. And
I think it makes a lot more
out...
sense this way, but it's quite powerful.
They smoothed out a lot of Macaw's power spikes too. With Goldrun at 6, it feels like building towards Macaw Beast is a powerful endgame comp that takes a lot of work to get to. And you're right that Goldrun on 6 does also, it feels pretty thematic that you're building towards this Death Rattle combo-y direction, but on tier 5 you just have a bunch of stats, and that's fine. Feels almost like big demons in a way if you don't transition to the Goldrun Macaw build, and it's nice that Beast has a little bit more flexibility. I'm pretty happy about where it's landed, and it is competitive. It is the nerf to pack leader did bring Beast to the top of tier 2, but that may also be due to the fact that, well, the top strat in the game is Pogo Hopper.
Yeah.
Kind of weird. Also, Lord Barov,
pretty interesting.
third hero. Oh, go ahead.
Is it me or do Soul Juggler demons feel worse? I tried it a couple times, and it might have just been that it was a bit awkward for me, but it didn't feel particularly powerful compared to what other people were doing.
Yeah.
Whereas it used to be like one of the top strats.
It's a top 4 strat.
Right.
It's very good for top 4, and demons have always been really like the kings of top 4. But Soul Juggler, I feel like being on level 3 right now is kind of not where you want to be. And a lot of the good Soul Juggler demon strats, also your board just gets kind of overcrowded. A lot of times I want like 2 Soul Jugglers and 2 Void Lords, and then I run out of space and a cleave takes everything out at once, and then I lose. Yeah.
Anyway, you were gonna. I haven't played a whole lot of with or against Lord Barov. What's he looking like?
He's fun.
What?
Not good, but fun.
So the Reno Jackson of the patch?
Yeah, he is I think 12th from the bottom. Ties obviously are not great because you don't get any gold. It will, I don't know. It feels difficult to use, but I think it's just highly variant. And even when informed, there's a fail rate that cannot possibly make it the right hero to pick most of the time. But it's fun. I will take this hero when I'm smurfing probably 100% of the time. Probably like every single time I see it.
Seems really fun if you're playing in a group, like a full stack of 8.
Yeah.
It seems like a fun hero because you get to talk trash or just, say who you're betting on and then hope that they win.
Oh, yeah. I want to, there's a person I'm thinking of in our guild that I want to bet on, and he would spitefully sell his best unit just to make sure I didn't get any gold. I would enjoy that mind game factor.
Shout out to Parker.
How did you know?
Who else would it be?
It's okay. All right. Yeah. Don't know what I expected. Yeah, big props to Parker. Anyway, yeah.
So, in addition to all of these BG groups coming out, we had a couple events happen. So, Slissa had a pretty awesome event that was taken down by Sun Glitters.
Woo!
Bunch of female Hearthstone streamers got to participate, and it's a pretty cool event. And then also we had an event hosted by Krip and Savitz, which I did not get a ton of information about, but I did see a nice little clip of when the stream started, and they had not tested, or something got messed up with Savit's mic, so he sounded like a dolphin when he was trying to talk, and it was pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, it's just awesome to see that we finally can have tournaments, and you don't have to have them run by Blizzard. It's just like there's so much opportunity now for these, like, it's just so sweet. I'm stoked that Battlegrounds finally has this available to them.
And the winning team, 109 Ace, he's a Korean streamer, I don't know him. Surrender, Show, and Zixo. What year is it? I want Show and Zixo for the grand prize to play a like pre-nerf patron mirror to figure out who actually wins. But like, super awesome for the for a lot of the old names. And I mean, this tournament was run by Kripp and Savitz, and the list of people on the invite list: Kibler, Super JJ, Dog is on there. You've got your dedicated BG streamers like Dreads and Collins and Victor. But you've got like Show was on there, Stan Udachi is on there, and a lot of really old school names that it's really cool to see back in the Hearthstone world, kind of.
Yeah, I mean,
I watched.
go ahead.
But yeah, I watched the Sliss event. I didn't know about the Kripp and Savitz one, and it was great having everyone sort of jump back on Slissa's Discord because she wasn't playing; she was just hosting, and they would either pop in the middle just to say something about their board, or pop in after they'd been knocked out to comment on the game. She would spectate different person at different points. At one point, I believe it was Sun Glitters who popped in to say that she had gotten a 69-69 Pogo Hopper. Of course, she was playing Jandis Barrow. But all around, it was a really awesome event. And of course, you could go over to whichever person's individual stream to see it from their perspective.
Yeah, shout out to Hoppa Bear for getting second. Hoppa, you're awesome. Yeah, it's
Yep.
and Slissa is becoming this amazing Battlegrounds educational content creator. She has this new series that I'm so excited about called Hard Stuck, where players at different MMR levels send in VODs of their games, and she comments on them, and it's really, really nice. So Itachi sent in the last video. Props to Itachi. I know him through THL. And he sent in a video around the same MMR as me in the 8K range, and just seeing what Slissa would have done, where I would have definitely made the same decisions as the person I was playing, and she's like, no, we should do this, and then this other thing. Highly educational. Strongly recommended. Putting out some really great YouTube content over on her channel.
And unfortunately, with all of these good things going on, we also have some might consider less than good things. I guess there's a couple bugs that came up. I guess if a card gets hit by a freezing trap, the card can be clicked, but it can't be clicked, but it could be dragged, or it could be dragged but can't be clicked. Not really sure what's going on with this, but it's a weird bug. And Galakron and possibly all hero cards, the 5 armor you get during the transformation is attached to your portrait, sometimes for the rest of the game, even though your the armor can actually change.
It looks really weird because there's just like there's a 5 shield floating over your actual armor total, and if it's just if when that armor goes away, it visually stays there, but then you take damage like normal, like it's not actually there. It's just a visual bug of that 5 shield just floats there for the rest of the game, even though the armor doesn't actually stay. And you can gain armor and lose armor; it still functions the same way. It looks really weird. It's very strange.
And then I guess probably going to be our biggest discussion of the news section is the controversy, I guess you could say, behind 4-player lobbies. Now that we have access to being able to queue with 4 people, there's been a lot of opinions out there, a lot of strong opinions, and a lot of kind of drama surrounding the whole situation. there was a discussion posted to Reddit that we have a link to in the show notes, and the specific link we have has a response from Iksar, kind of talking about how if they feel they need to balance around or change the way the group queues work. There was also another response less than 24 hours ago from TDing, a member of the Blizzard team, that will definitely want to get into talking about how much queuing as a group actually affects your win rate. And yeah, and I don't know. How do we want to kick this off? Who wants to go first? Because I don't know that my opinions should go first.
I should summarize what Iksar said first. I'm going to summarize
Sure,
some of the
go
things he
ahead.
said. So first of all, this is the informational portion. So, because there's obviously been some pushback from high-level BG players on the 4-stat queuing since after it was announced, before it was implemented. It was an immediate response, including a post from Dog the second the patch notes came out said this is asking people to win trade. So I'm gonna some parts of Iksar I'm gonna paraphrase, but I have a couple direct quotes here. The first direct quote: "We have two core goals directly relating to group queuing. One is to allow you to play with your friends when you want. The other is to create a fun and fair experience for all players involved in the game. Ideally, there's a solution that allows for both these things to happen." So I'm paraphrasing here. I'm paraphrasing. I'm going to paraphrase this next section and edit out where I mispronounced the other stuff. Basically, part of the reason why this started the way it did is so they can collect some data on what actually happens at different skill bands to see how the matchmaking rating of those group players can be nudged for a more fair experience. Maybe if you have a bunch of 10k players that are grouping together, you put them in a lobby with higher players, like if you have a bunch of 10ks, they play with a 12k, or maybe you go the other way. Maybe they go in lower lobbies so that they win less when they win for MMR, and they lose more when they lose. They're working through some stuff. They have to collect data to do that, so of course, games have to be played. But if it doesn't work for whatever reason, and he specifically says actual or perceived fairness, there are a lot of other paths that can be gone down. Disabling group queue, above a certain MMR, only pair groups together, create a separate queue. There are a lot of ways they can approach it. They haven't implemented any of these yet, but there are things they can do. In addition, we should clarify, this is a separate thing, but Iksar said it, almost a throwaway note. In 18.4 and beyond, there will be a rating reset, and this will be reset every BG patch. Every major BG patch, rather. Basically, think about when they usually introduce tribes. That's when they're going to reset how MMR is displayed. But there's going to be a visual rating, and there's going to be your hidden matchmaking rating, kind of like Constructed Ladder right now, where you have your MMR that is used to actually pair you against other players. That's actually not getting reset. That's going to stay the same. But there will be a progression system on top of it, much like star bonuses right now and legend rank right now. We don't know the specifics, but your current matchmaking rating will stay the same, and then your visual rating is what will change. And there's a whole big thread here talking about some nuanced stuff, talking about when people are exploiting, talking about when solo players are queuing into a group, talking about is it more or less fun as an individual to queue into a group, as a group to queue into individuals, subjective, perceived fairness things. So there's, it's a good discussion if you want to see the perspective from the designers. There was a second post here by T-Ding, who's a data scientist. He also responded on some of the MMR things, and has some more firm numbers about how games are actually being affected. And these are, I am surprised that they made this post, because I think it proves the point of the players and not of Blizzard. So, if you're an average player, which I assume means around 4,000 MMR, and you're in a group queue with your friends, Predicted win rate against solo players, if you're in a stack of 4, it goes up just under 1%, 0.77%, pretty small. If your rating is among the top 30%, which means 6,000 MMR, if you're in a 4 stack, your rating goes up 4.5%. So just under 1 out of every 20 games.
4.5%.
Yeah.
Holy
And-
cow,
and
that's so much.
I'm at 6K. Like, that's not very high for this game. I don't feel particularly good at BGs, but yeah, 4.5%. If I like the things I would do to increase my win rate on regular ranked ladder to increase by 4.5%.
This is about the same that the nerfed secret passage decreased the likelihood of seeing a card when you play it. If you have a 2 of in your deck, you decrease the odds of hitting that card by about 4.5%. So if they would nerf a card in constructed by this much, and they would increase the chance of a player winning in BGs that much, that's sobering. And also, that's at 6K. If we go from 1% at 4K or so, and then we go to 4.5% at 6K, I'm not saying it linearly scales up every 2K, but I will say that the higher you go, I bet those numbers get higher too. I bet at 8K it's probably maybe a 6%, maybe a 7%. I bet at 10K it's probably higher. I bet at the top of the game at 14% or at 14K. There was a post that I found while browsing around the Reddits and all that. 2 players were facing each other on 5 gold. Both players sold their only unit. One of them leveled. The other bought 2 Shifter Xeris. And they both came top 3 in that lobby. That's not how the game has been played for the entirety of the game's existence. That is just not how Battlegrounds works. In addition, T-Ding followed up with a later comment that currently 75% of games are entirely solo queue. 75% seems like a large number. 25% of all games are not entirely solo queue. 1 out of 4 games right now has some kind of group queue. 1 out of 4. So I'm going to make an analogy.
That's going to go up. That's
Yeah.
going to go up a lot, by the way.
I mean, like, there are a lot of Battlegrounds games at lower MMR brackets where I think people aren't pushing that. And I wouldn't be surprised if the majority of those queues even are social and not meant to be competitive. But so regardless of your feelings on whether or not this should be in the game or not, Blizzard changed the game. They changed how the game is played. Battlegrounds at a competitive level is now a team game. With this change, I do not expect this to stay the way it is. We should be very clear about that. Do not expect this to stay the way it is. As of this weekend, if you are 10K or up, and you are a Battlegrounds player that mains Battlegrounds, you are now playing a team game. It is the difference between solo queue and team queue in League of Legends. It is an enormous difference. It is not how Battlegrounds was designed, and not how players were playing it for the entirety of the game's existence. Now, is the game in beta? Yes. Will they change this back? They'll do something, because I don't think this was intended. And there are a lot of ways they can address it, and I expect them to address it. But this is a huge change, and the follow-up posts that Blizzard has made prove the point that this is a huge change. And I would have trouble blaming any high-level players for being disappointed that their mode is kind of unplayable right now. Like, imagine on Tuesday, they said, okay, we're doing Doom in the Tombs again for this week, and didn't put an end date. And just said, just Doom in the Tombs, just wildcards are back. And you said, I wanted to play Skullman Standard. You don't get to anymore. So, if you want to solo queue in Battlegrounds, you can. If you are not at a high MMR, it'll probably feel about the same. The higher up you go on the ladder, the more different it will feel. And if you choose to queue solo, I believe it is now competitively suboptimal. And I cannot imagine that feels great for people that main the mode.
And if you queue as a group and are not in voice chat communicating with everybody else, it's essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't help you.
Yeah.
Yep.
That being said, I see we have like a quote here from a Stream Elements quote from F2K Victor saying, looking for 11K Battlegrounds players who want to quad queue after the new patch, prioritize leaderboard players. The objective in the game is to work together to eliminate opponents, protect each other, no win trade in end games, basic communication through English required. If you're interested, PM me on Twitter or send an email to blah 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 to apply. And this is what you should be doing if your goal is to gain MMR in the current system that they have. It looks. I think that a lot of people would say this looks kind of bad, but this is just the reality of the situation. If your goal is to gain rating in Battlegrounds right now, I played in a 4-stack. We were not being super competitive. I think it was when we had the 12K player in our lobby, and I queued up. My friend was playing Maev, and we fought each other in the first round, and I said, what are you doing? Round 1. They said they're hero powering, so they're imprisoning a minion. I said, okay, and I bought a deck swabby and I didn't play it. And then next turn I leveled up and I played the deck swabby afterwards so that I could get the battle cry on my after the level up, so that you get the reduction bonus. And like, that's a small thing. It's not like the Xeris play, but it's essentially the same thing. But like, it's what we should do, right? Like, you're playing against a friend. We weren't doing it through the whole game, like trying to min max everything, because that's really hard to do in a game as complicated as Battlegrounds. But like, if it's in the game as it is like this, that's kind of, I don't know.
You have to do it.
I don't see, like, yeah, right?
You have to do it.
And we don't know that we weren't like the 12K player wasn't queuing with 3 other people as well and doing the same thing. So like, I don't know. I didn't feel bad about doing it. It just felt like the natural progression of what I should be doing. But then we queued as 5 people, and then you don't cooperate because you're just queuing as in a group with friends where there's no MMR on the line, and that's a lot better. So I don't know. I really think I'm really surprised that they added this to the game and that specify that you as a group queue against others. I think it's hard to do that when you're unsure how many people are going to be queuing as a group and how long those queues are going to take, because even if it's a quarter of the people are queuing as a group, that's still probably a fairly disparate MMR gap between the different groups that are queuing. And like, in order to get a play experience that is somewhat equivalent or equal, it's got to be really hard to match that. So I would expect in the future, if they want to keep this, which I think they should, because I think the idea of queuing with 4 people and then going against another 4 people who are queuing is a really cool idea.
It's awesome.
And
It's a different game mode. It's a new game mode. But they should just make that a thing. Like, there should just be 4-stack queues and then solo queues.
Right. But realistically, I think there should be 2 to 4-stack queues and solo queue, which is essentially what like a lot of the types games have. Is there should be solo queue where everybody you're playing with is queuing solo. There's no funny business unless people are trying to do the thing where they queue at the same. But and then group queue, and then the 2 stacks should play against the 4 stacks. I think. I don't think that's a huge deal, because then 3 stack, you could have 2 3-stacks and a 2. Sorry, excuse me, 2 3-stacks and a 2-stack, and double 4s.
Yeah.
It just makes a lot of sense, and they said that 4.5% is a small percentage. That's not the adjective I would have used. Small is not the correct. That's very large.
They should have gotten to typing that part of the post and then stopped typing and gone back to the lab and said, hey, this feels like kind of a big deal. And
Like, if you're getting down to like 0.5%, is still very big to win any game. Like, gaining 0.5% in a game, you do that every single time. That's you. I could see them getting away with saying small there. 4.5 is massive. Like, think about the difference on 4.5%. If you added 4.5% to like any deck in the meta, it would go straight from tier 3 to the best deck in the game in a lot of cases, right?
Yeah.
Like 4.5% is so much. I don't know. I don't have a lot else to say. I don't blame the players for being upset. I don't blame the players for trying to stack the queue, and I wouldn't even consider it exploiting the system, because this is the system that they gave us. Like, this, it's not like if they were trying to queue together separately and hope that they get in the same lobby and then working together there, that's exploitation, because that's not something you should be able to do. But if they're just allowing people to queue with 4 people and it increases your win rate by 4.5%, I mean, everybody's just going to do that, and top players that are looking to gain MMR just aren't going to play the game. Like, they're just not going to play the mode.
Yeah. And to prove the point about how powerful queuing as a 4-stack is, the player that posted the chat message we talked about, Victor, since the patch came out, he moved up 800 MMR and 200 spots on the leaderboard. It works. If you want to win more, you need to queue as a 4-stack and communicate and plan and organize. It is the right thing to do to win more. And so if you were thinking about playing standard ladder this weekend and they replaced it with wild or doom and tombs or whatever, and then you said that's not what I want to do, I want to play the way I was before, can't anymore, that is how I would feel about this if I were a Battlegrounds main. Now, there's a flip side to this. Bunch of flip sides. Mode's still in beta. Devs have made it clear they have ways to address this, locked and loaded. I'm surprised they didn't move a little faster, but also there was other stuff going on with the mobile patch. And it's not like Battlegrounds ladder qualifies you for anything, and there's no prizes and all that. The impact here is that you don't get to play the game the way you used to, but there's no financial impact. MMR doesn't really mean much right now. The leaderboards are just for pride. It is still in beta, but the solo queue mode was basically removed from the game at high MMR on Tuesday, and that's kind of not great. That's kind of where I am on that.
It was removed if your intent is to maximize your odds of winning. So, like,
yeah,
because I queued with a group of 3, not having a lot of experience, but I would still solo queue if I really felt like it, because it's not super important. My MMR is not super important to me right now, but I would queue under the understanding that it would not be the correct play to do to solo queue. Like, you shouldn't feel bad about solo queuing. You just have to also be under the understanding that you're at a disadvantage. Queue because you want to play, not because you're looking to gain MMR.
Yeah. I mean, and if people want to queue and play, they can. But the higher up you go in the ladder, the more different it'll feel. And if you wanted it to not feel different this weekend and you're at a high MMR, it's kind of, there's not really a great choice for that. And so I feel for the players that are maining BGs this weekend. And I don't envision this situation to last for a while. But also, I totally understand the disappointment. With that being said, there's a flip side to this, and I think we need to bust out the old soapbox. And Concede listeners, I want to clarify a few things. Clarify a few things before we go into this next section. First of all, I don't think that this section applies to our listeners, at least not in any kind of major way. Because listeners, you are all wonderful, and we appreciate you and respect you, and you appreciate and respect human beings just how we do, and it's great. So thank you for being who you are. And second of all, there is a shortage of personal patience and stress tolerance in the world right now. especially during this week when pictures of the West Coast of the United States look like Blade Runner, and when, family members are going back to school, people are going back to work, and there's this constant apocalyptic risk, anxiety, along with the news cycle, which has not really been all that fantastic this week either. But we want to talk about how to communicate with the developers of the game as though they are human beings. This is an important thing, and I'm going to try and avoid getting too soapboxy here, but I'm warning you all now because it's probably going to happen. It's been hard maintaining patience right now, just in general, and seeing good people get treated poorly because of their attempts to improve a video game that we play for fun is pretty upsetting. Because people make the game, and they are trying to do things to improve it, and sometimes an improvement might not be targeted at us specifically, and that's okay, and we have patience and understanding, and overall, the efforts made to improve the game have absolutely done so in large quantity consistently, and when there's been a mistake, it's been fairly quickly corrected. So, start with, got a couple tweets from Cora. So Cora, bless Cora, and of course we're biased here because Cora founded this show, but on the other hand, anyone that dislikes Cora or has strong negative feelings on this can go kick rocks. I just don't really care. If you are having difficulty accepting the people that make the game are human beings. So Cora was on the front lines tweeting about the micromummy issue because it was literally crashing the game day one when you tripled it. There was actually, by the way, we have some background information. It was a bug that was fixed a week before the patch went out, but there was an issue with patch deployment. The final build that got distributed did not end up having the bug fix in it. They ended up removing it server-side, but Cora was on the front lines tweeting, "Don't triple micromummy, he will break your game." They removed it server-side, took it out, re-implemented the patch, pushed it out. It turns out there was an issue with patch deployment, and the patch went to desktop, but not mobile. So they had to take it out again, because if you were on PC, you could triple it, but if you were on iOS or Android, the patch was not downloaded correctly, it still crashed the game, so a PC user could triple a micromummy and break your game. Software is complicated. This was an issue with a fix not making it into the proper build and not properly being communicated. These are things that happens with software, right? This is a thing that happens. So, it is currently not in the game. They have removed it until they can deploy the patch. I assume it'll be after the weekend because there's a Masters Tour going on right now. But the follow-up posts. So Cora was, at the first post, she tweeted that the game is supposed to be fun. If it's not fun, they'll fix whatever's making it not fun. And that while this isn't her job, she would want this communication if she were on the other side of things. Love that sentiment. Really appreciate it. And that kind of forthright communication from the devs is special and something that we don't want to take for granted because biting the hand that feeds means they stop feeding us. If we react negatively every time that there is a negative situation and the devs reach out and say, "We know, we're trying to fix it. Thank you for your patience. We appreciate it. We just want to make the game more fun." Get it. There was a person that slid into Cora's requests, and I am going to bleep this, but I'm going to read the DM that she received. "Fix the bleeping game. Why be so bleeping stupid and put a minion into BGs that simply bleeps the game up? Take the minion fix, put it back in. It's not bleeping rocket science. Lost 2 games now, thanks for that. I will throw a cat at you if I see you in person." What kind of world do you have to live in where you think this is how you treat another person? What kind of world do you have to live in? And looking at the Reddit threads, looking at all the commentary, Battlegrounds players, if you are upset, if you are disappointed, that is valid. I feel those feelings. I would not blame you at all for being extremely upset. I would not blame you at all for being disappointed that the mode that you play, your favorite game, is taken away from you for a week. Totally get it. You have to play a different way, or you have to play on a Smurf server or whatever. It's just, you don't get to play the way you want to play. I get it. The devs are improving a game mode that is in beta to make it more fun. They didn't have to give it to us at all. They chose to give it to us. They have constantly chosen to improve it. They are improving the main game. They are making it more affordable. They are making it more accessible. They are making the rewards better. Treat the devs like human beings. And if you cannot stop yourself from talking crap about them, find a different game. Or maybe drop the idea of video games because it's not going to work out. Software is hard. Things are going to happen at these giant companies. But if you don't have any kind of respect for the people making the game and you feel a need to voice that either directly to them or in general, you got to reframe that perspective because it's not the right thing to do. If you don't have faith in the game developers, play a different game. If you don't want to talk nicely to people, don't say anything at all. But if you want to send a DM like this, what do you think is going to happen? All that's going to happen is the devs are going to communicate with us less and feel worse about their jobs. Do not do this. Do not do this. All right, you all go. You go.
Now, one of the things that really hit me with that as well is, from their profile image, it looked as though they have children, and I just, it's like, it's so disconcerting, frustrating. Like, to think that someone would behave this way who has kids, and I wonder, like, what kind of example that person sets for their kids, and if they do generally set a good example, like, how do you talk this way to other people? Like, that's such a double life to me. If that's the case, it's very bewildering. And then the element of like throw a cat. Like, what kind of even
That's
threat
mean
is
to the
that? Throw a
cat.
cat at
That's
someone?
mean to the
Like,
human.
I
That's mean to the
know,
cat.
it's so
Why are you such a
bad.
jerk to multiple species in one sentence?
And I will say that the I don't know, the one like semi good thing that came of it was just like the memes of in the comments or in the replies of everyone saying, like, Sottle saying, I will take in any of the cats thrown, or just all the stuff about the cats was a good time. But like, it's all just, it's the was it I only laugh just to keep from weeping kind of thing. Like, I just be good to each other, and I'm very thankful for our community, which I believe on the whole is better than this.
Man, what a way to like end a rant. Cause like throw a cat at somebody seems like a joke, but the rest of his comments are just so angry. Like, oh man, I feel so bad that Cora has to go through stuff like this, because I know that this isn't the only person that sends comments like this to people on the development team, and it sucks that there are these people in society that have these reactions and then feel the need to blame the wrong like, it's just
To blame anyone.
it's not useful. It's just not, it's not helping anybody. Like, I'm very sure it's not helping him feel any better. Like, I don't know, man. It sucks that people like this exist, and that people have had lives that cause them to feel the need to do stuff like this. But just, if you feel the need to do something like this, just take a second. Like, if you have to, type out the message and just don't send it. Like, I ideally I'd like to live in a world where people don't feel like they need to even go through that step, or because they're not even blaming the right person. Like, it's just I don't know, think before you do crappy stuff. I don't know what to say.
So, like, Bodicus,
even if they send the message to the right person, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. There is no right person to send. Like, this isn't a message that you send anybody.
And Bodicus, you deliver, you drive and deliver things.
Yeah.
So imagine there is an accident and something that you were delivering to someone, not even to them, to their company. They send you a message on Twitter like, have you even driven before? It's what is the
I mean,
point of this?
I've gotten similar stuff before. Like it happens. Like this isn't unique. This isn't
No.
unique to Hearthstone, and like
It's-
it happens, and it sticks with you for a while, and it
Yeah.
sucks. And I've been in this situation, but I don't know. Like we're on this podcast. We're here to make the competitive side of the game more accessible to you, but we're also here to help you have a better experience in Hearthstone and maybe even sometimes in life. And like, this is not going to make your life better. Like having reactions like this and sending messages to devs that are mean spirited and just outright just mean, like it's not going to make you feel better, and it's really not going to make them feel better. So just don't do it.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking to nobody because I'm sure there's almost nobody, if anybody, that listens to the show that would do something like this. But like, just I don't know, get therapy.
Yeah, I mean,
You probably need it.
everybody
If-
needs therapy. I've been going to therapy every
Yeah.
week for 13 years just as a maintenance cycle, just to keep things going. And you know, it's I understand that people may have a lot going on personally, but there's no reason to make something personal about someone's job unless that's like making a bug in a game does not impact your life to the point where you are now in personal risk, right? There are people that when they do their job incorrectly, other people die. And I think that it's reasonable to say you don't send them a message, you sue them. But this is not malpractice. This is a bug in a game that lasted for a couple hours, and then they fixed it while telling us what was going on in the process. I think that's a reasonable thing. And speaking as someone with over a decade of people and management experience, there has never been a time where being rude or mean has gotten me more than being nice and understanding and just talking to the other person and listening. And the best results I've gotten out of employees and peers and vendors and anyone that I've had to work with has been by encouraging them, supporting them, understanding them, and getting out of the way. When they do something great, thank them for doing something great. When something didn't work out, what can we do next time? What can we do to fix it? And then letting them do it without being rude or being negative about it excessively, unless it's the same mistake over and over again. If it's the same mistake over and over again, I move on. If it's on them and it's not on me and they've shown they won't change, I don't stay. There have been games where I've played a lot and then the way the developers interact with the game was not up to my standards. And so I moved on from that game. I did something else. But if you choose to stay and you know what's going to happen, you have to accept the world for what it is, not the world you want it to be, and any difference between those two things is not anybody's fault.
I think that's a super great comparison because in all the customer service stuff, for sure, you know, you're gonna be trying to do the thing anyway. The devs already knew there was an issue, so you know the best that one can do to move these kinds of things along is flag the issue and make sure that people know that it's an issue. But no amount of like spewing toxic nonsense is going to make someone upset their work-life balance to get this done with, because that's what it sounds like. Is the person is like, you should be doing an all-nighter or something to fix this, which is an unreasonable expectation, I think.
Imagine getting this message and thinking, like, if you got this message, would you ever think I need to work harder to make this person happier? No, you'd think, why am I in this job? Why should I do this if this is the reaction I'm going to get? I was already working really hard. Why should I continue doing so much and putting this much effort in if this is the response? You don't ever make someone work harder by crapping on them. Never, ever, ever. And you know what? Let's be honest. 4-stack queues in ranked, it was a mistake. 100% I believe it was a mistake. I believe it should not have been added to the game.
Mm-hmm.
They said they're going to fix it. I believe them. In the meantime, I think it is fair to be disappointed, and then we wait and we see what they do, and then we decide how we continue engaging with the game. they don't change it, I wouldn't blame anyone that moved on. But it's been 3 days. I imagine that next week there will be some kind of adjustment here because the social media outcry has been pretty significant, and so far the team's been pretty good at changing it. But you know what? They make mistakes sometimes. This was one of them. I wish they had changed it faster. They said they had solutions ready. They didn't roll any of them out. I'm surprised that it's taken this long. But sometimes the team is going to make mistakes, and overall I think their track record has earned them some faith, and I believe that they will make it right.
Yeah, I would disagree with you on a certain point. I do think they should have added this to the game. I don't think they should have added it in its current implementation.
Okay.
I do want 4-stack queues to be a thing that you can do and queue against other 4-stack queues, but I don't want it the way when you can just queue 4 people and get 4 solo queues and have a huge advantage.
Yeah, I imagine a like solo/duo queue, and then team queue, which is 4 stacks. That's, I don't know, that translating MOBA to this mode, that's what it feels like for me.
I mean,
Because
people
they're that completely different.
people were already like complaining a little bit that you could queue with a friend in it. I think it should just be strictly solo queue and then group queue, which is 2 to 4. I think would be better.
I mean,
Personally.
I get that, but I think in MOBAs you can duo queue and you go up against other singles, right? Because they're 5-person teams, so there's gonna be some singles. Maybe there's another double on the other side or something. I think that is much less impactful. You figure 1 in every few you get that benefit, but it's not enough to like super shape your strategy. But I mean, yeah, if they want to have another layer of separation and have like strictly single be its own thing, all for that as well. But I think the separation between greater than 2 is just too much.
It's interesting. I wonder how much like if they were to make it and where you could queue a single and double and get in the same one. Now that they've had the quad queues, I wonder how many people, when they make the change, because I do believe that they're going to make the change, are going to still try to do duo queuing with other people.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm sure the benefit is not nearly as much as it is because 4 people literally takes up half a lobby, and duo queuing, sometimes you just don't even play against the person that you're duo queuing with. But I think I would feel better if it was single and then group. I mean, honestly, I think I would feel better if it was single and then duo and then group. But I think that's too much, and I'd rather it be grouped with single and then multi. But we'll see what they end up coming out with, and I firmly believe that they will make the change. I don't know that it'll be next week. It's possible due to the amount of outcry, but if it changes in 2 weeks, I don't think I'm super upset that it takes them a little bit of extra time, because it's going to take them some. They're going to want to make sure when they make the change, they make the right change. And then I think my last thing I would say just about making mistakes is, I think a thing that helps me when a mistake is made at work is I think of times that I've made a mistake and then try to figure out why that mistake could have happened, and just understanding that, everybody makes mistakes and you make mistakes too. And do you want somebody, when you make a mistake, do you really want somebody yelling at you about how bad that mistake was? If that doesn't make you feel better, I don't know why you would do that to somebody else.
And there are companies that have been really called out for that exact thing. I forget what the startup was, but there was some group where the company culture, and it was like supposed to be this different thing, is that there were no private Slack channels or anything, which just meant that if someone got chewed out by their superior because there was a no private thing, you were just on blast in the main Slack channels, and that's not okay. uh, like, it's a slightly different situation, but I, as Hat said, I think the main takeaway is just that people are going to respond better to positive reinforcement pretty much across the board, and you should always start with that.
And this is already a positive effort with misguided results. And, you know, there was a lot of feedback before this rolled onto ladder saying we think this is going to disrupt competitive integrity at the highest level. It did. Feedback was relevant. Feedback was accurate. Not going to say it wasn't. And I really want to emphasize, if there are high-level BG players listening to this podcast that are mad that their main game mode got deleted for a week, I respect and empathize with that feeling. If ladder was just turned off and I couldn't play standard this weekend and I could only play wild, like, yeah, I'd do it, but it's not really what I want to do as much right now. I respect and understand and appreciate the validity of those feelings. But at this point, the bet is made, the feedback is heard pretty clearly. Vote with your time. Don't play BGs that you would have otherwise played. If the mode has changed for you, they will see the drop in game volume. You can do something else for the week. And I imagine there will be at least communication next week, if not active change. And it's possible that they just lock this out at a certain MMR level just as a band-aid. If they just say above 10k you can't quad queue, like, fine, whatever. Something they could easily just slap into the mode and resolve. Just for the short term. I imagine that this will be smoothed out and fixed over time, as pretty much everything else has been. Soapbox over, I think.
Okay, well, let's finish off the news section with a bit of a more positive note. There were a couple Hearthstone articles on the main website about different players playing in Masters Tour Online Montreal. And one of them was a guest fairly recently on the show, Ego Waffle, who had a nice little article in here. We also have articles for Gamer RVG, Gabby, and Pizza. All people that I'm sure have been featured on the stream or for games that are going to be played. All fantastic players, and just cool little cool little notes about people, because you get a lot of information, I think, about Grandmasters and people who are, at the very highest level. And all of these players are super high level Hearthstone players that maybe don't get the attention that they definitely deserve for how much mastery of the game they have. And honestly, it's good to see that Pizza got a bit of recognition here, because he's been working really hard and playing the game for a really long time and just kind of grinding without, I don't think, enough attention to just how good he is. So really good to see him get an article in here as well.
Yeah, it's Lorinda wrote all these articles, and you can tell he prioritized the up and coming grinders. So really happy to see that, as these are cool people. All right, is it tournament time?
Love to see Ego, Gabby, and Pizza getting that recognition. I'm not as familiar with Gamer RVG, except that he played in a couple of my events.
Yeah, I believe he's on Hype Horizon, right? You think that's his team? Yeah, I forget, but yeah, he's a cool dude. All right, tournament time. Let's talk about Montreal.
It's the grand tournament.
So Montreal is happening, like, I think day one finished 30 minutes ago, something like that. We actually started during round 5, but Ego was playing Turtle Mage, so I'm like, oh, we got a few minutes here, because, Turtle Mage. But we have initial data from day 1 that we want to share with you. So, just under 80% of players brought Bomb Warrior. 80%. 4 out of 5 players had Bomb Warrior in their lineup. Druid is around... it's like 70% total. It's mostly Guardian, but there's some Malygos. Mage is also about as popular as Druid. There's quite a bit. It's mostly Cyclone, but there is a decently sized Turtle Mage contingent, and it did okay. Soul Demon Hunter is the third most popular deck. Demon Hunter is the fourth most popular class, but it's all Soul Demon Hunter. Priest is kind of a mishmash, but it's actually doing okay. We'll talk about that in a second. Rogue has fallen off a lot, mostly Secret Miracle variants. Solid number of Face Hunters, and then a drop off the last 3 in terms of representation is enormous. We have hot off the presses. Thanks so much, Wicked Good. Deck win rates from Masters Tour Montreal on day 1. The best deck on day 1 is Galakron Priest. I did not see that coming. Top
Me
5.
either.
Top 5 win rate
No.
decks in order.
No wonder Wicked Good brought it up in chat. I saw him bring it up in
Yeah.
chat earlier.
Of course.
So top 5 decks by win rate. Now keep in mind, this is a Conquest tournament, and everyone knew Bomb Warrior and Mage decks were going to be big, and Face Hunter as well. But the top 5 performing decks so far, just through day 1, Galakron Priest number 1, 58% win rate. Aggro Rogue number 2, 56% win rate. Zoo Warlock number 3, 55% win rate. Malygos Druid, 54% win rate. Highlander Hunter, number 5, 54%. I didn't know that was a deck. And then number 6, Non-Pure Libram Paladin, 53% win rate overall. Relatively small sample sizes. This is not what I expected to see. And Bomb Warrior...
Highlander Hunter kind of feels like the zoo since Dino Tamer brand got added into the format. It's just like the deck that's always kind of just there and is good enough to compete.
Yep. And if we look at the bottom 3 decks, so the lowest win rate deck overall is Bomb Warrior. Remember how I said Bomb Warrior was in almost 80% of lineups? It only had 549 total games played, and the reason this win rate is low, this is why you have to be really careful about Conquest stats. The only games that Bomb Warrior played were against lineups that were hard targeting it, because if you were not targeting Warrior, you were banning Warrior, so people didn't play it unless they knew they could beat it, and that's why it's this low. Yeah. So, be aware, Bomb Warrior being the worst deck here, it's very good in the ladder, because people aren't hard targeting it. It's popular, but that's why it's the lowest. Next 2 lowest decks, bottom 3, Bomb Warrior, Turtle Mage, Face Hunter. Decks you heard a lot about going into this weekend. If you hear a lot about it, that means they're in the crosshairs. This is also probably why Tempo Mage is under 50%, Cyclone Mage is under 50%. And also, no one was trying to target Priest this weekend. So that's probably why it's the highest win rate deck. I don't know. Priest is okay, I guess. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah. So, definitely check that out as you watch. Well, we're recording this on Friday. You will probably hear this podcast on Sunday or Monday, so the report will be done. But congratulations to the winner. We don't know who it is yet. Tell us how the future is, listener. We hope it's nice. Also of note, the rounds are really long. First 3 rounds took 7 hours. Big props to Eggwall for going 5-0. Big props to D-Money for going 4-1. Yeah. And you can also go over to donkey.top, D0NKEY.top, for basically everything you can want to know about this tournament, how players are doing, what they're playing, etc. Or go over to youtube.com/Hearthstone Esports, check out the content and the live streams. Alright, as far as Grandmasters goes, there was no Grandmasters. Well, this week they're all playing in the Masters Tour. Last week, they just did the first round robin stage. Too early to really draw any conclusions from that. They have to play everybody in their own division twice. So only 2 games so far. Or no, everyone in their own division once, I think. I forget. Only 2 games in so far, so really not many conclusions to draw on. As far as qualifiers, we have the last round of data from pre-nerf qualifiers. Pre-nerf, Warrior was really what you wanted to play. Typically Bomb, but in Rage and Control were just fine. It won the most qualifiers, by far. Now, Priest was doing okay, was no slouch, second most qualifying class. against a cluster of all kinds of stuff. Mage won a few, Face Hunter, Soul Demon Hunter, Druid, Zoo, Rogue, a lot of options. There's even a winner with the Libram Paladin. The best decks by win rate, well, before the nerf, Zoo, Control Priest, Stealth and Secret Rogue, and Soul Demon Hunter. Kind of familiar, actually. Best lineups overall were quite diverse. Cyclone Mage, Zoo, and Bomb Warrior did well. Turtle Mage, Gala Priest, Bomb Warrior did well. Soul Demon Hunter, Highlander Priest, Bomb Warrior did well. Just play Bomb Warrior. That seems really strong. Unless you're in the Masters Tour, like right now. Aggro lineups didn't look great this week. Druid didn't perform super well either. Aggro Demon Hunter was bad. Pure Paladin, don't play Pure Paladin. You will lose if you play Pure Paladin in Conquest. It's just not a good idea. And really don't bring Highlander Mage, which I also didn't know was still a deck, but apparently it didn't either. By far the lowest win rate, in the low 40s. And that wraps up the Blizzard official stuff, but we've got some other stuff going on. Edelweiss, tell us about Supergirl Gamer. It says you won last week.
Yeah, so that was cool. I had Face Hunter, Aggro Stealth Rogue, and something else aggressive, I'm sure. I can't remember. But yeah, it was nice to get the sandwich on the 9 weeks. I opened up with the win on that first week when they forgot to have us do bans, and so closing it out firmly, got in the top 8 with enough points, because it was this series where you would accumulate points over the course of the 9 weeks. So I played in, I think, all but one of the qualifiers. And now I just have to wait until October for when the top 8 playoffs will be. There's, I believe, 4 American players, 3 Brazilian players, and 1 Mexican player. I might be getting that wrong, but that was the breakdown from what I can tell. So, and then besides the Supergirl Gamer Pro, I'm also playing in Aspirant Series, which we just finished week 1, which was a doubleheader week. Mage was both very popular and very successful. No surprise there. Lots of Cyclone Mage. I think of the 28 people who brought Mage to Aspirant, 20 of them were Cyclone and 8 were, I am guessing, Turtle. Very few Paladins and Shamans compared to everything else, but otherwise pretty diverse. And you can check out the meta report for the Aspirant series done by Pennypacker. I've included the link in the show notes. Lots of people in this season of Aspirant. So yeah, it's been super fun.
It's a good time for grassroots tournaments as well as the official ones, and I imagine that there will also be quite a few grassroots battleground series coming soon. So hype, so excited. I know THL, we're working on ours right now, trying to figure out the format for it. I think the challenges right now that we're working through are scheduling and points, scoring. And those two are complicated. Scheduling, I think right now, the current plan is just have one time every week, and like you are going to be there that time every week. Because you can play as many as you want simultaneously. We'll figure it out. But yeah. Now, we're not going to talk too much about ladder, because just got nerfed, we don't know what's going on yet, and we thought we knew what was going on, and then Control Priest was the highest win rate deck on day 1 of the Masters Tour, so we're not going to try and pretend like we know what's going on. But we want to talk with Edelweiss, because she spent a lot of time with Glee preparing lineups, and it's always a good idea to revisit the topic of how to prep a lineup, and we can even talk about it, a little bit of specifics to this format, and just discuss how we approach lineup building. Let's go.
So with tournament prep, it's always best to come into it with a strategy, right? There's sometimes a quick and easy thing if you don't want to think of a best decks strategy. Bodicus sort of referenced it earlier, where occasionally there's just, you've got your 3 best deck. Usually it's like there's 3 best decks, and then you just pick a 4th one that you think comes close to those other ones. And usually, how you do comes down to how well you can perform with that fourth deck. But particularly right now, that is tricky to do. And if balance continues as it has been, I think that's going to be pretty difficult from here on forward. So usually when coming up with a conquest strategy, you want to do something along the lines of targeting, and usually it could be a hard target, it could be a soft target, but you do need to have a sense of what is everyone else is going to be playing, and what is your what's your approach when facing those top lineups. So going into this weekend, we were pretty confident that Bomb Warrior was going to be brought by pretty much everyone, and Mage as well, whether it was Cyclone or Turtle Mage. And on top of that, Druid has the kind of hands where it can just run away with the game. So we're pretty settled on those three as being very common. We did miss on Demon Hunter, and that was largely due to the Zoo nerf. And Demon Hunter was a very strong counter to Zoo. Or I should say, is a strong counter to Zoo, but with not so much Zoo being brought, we thought it would fall off. It has not. But I think in terms of what's defining this format, it really comes down to the warrior and the mage. And I think most of the time you are banning one of those two. Garrett and I went for the try and target warrior and ban the mage, because mage is so unpredictable in terms of what it can do. The Cyclone Mage has just all kinds of random card generation that it can be extremely tricky to predict, and the Turtle Mage is just, I think, we basically just didn't want to fatigue Garrett on having to play against Turtle Mage, particularly with his, like, and this is getting into another thing, comfort. His deck that he's played just a ton of games on and ground ladder to a top 16 finish is this Libram Paladin with broomsticks, and you basically win by, when you finally play Lady Liadrin, you have all these Libram of Wisdoms that are free, and you have a couple of pen flingers in the deck. Some people call it APM Paladin, because there's just so many actions you need to do in a turn, and it's not no TK or anything, it's just this crazy amount of value you get from all the free Libram of Wisdoms. So we wanted to build around knowing that that's, his most played deck, most comfortable deck, and by putting in a couple of oozes, it's quite strong against warrior, because you've got the healing, you've got the big taunts. So that was pretty much sealed. There was some debate in terms of making sure that it could win the Druid matchups and some other things, but I think at the end of the day, Paladin was one of his best performing decks. He did bring Bomb Warrior because, again, it's just that strong, right? It's the number one bring, that even if you're targeting warrior, you bring Bomb Warrior and you just have some text for the opposing Bomb Warrior. And then he also brought Druid, and we settled on a Secret Rogue, which that ended up being, unfortunately, the weakest deck in the lineup. We selected the Secret Rogue as something that could be able to beat Druid, which, with Mage being banned, was going to be sort of the number 2 deck to beat in terms of prevalence. And I think, unfortunately, it just, I don't know if it was some rust on the list. It's a very tricky thing, and Druid, sometimes they just hit the nuts, and it's hard to deal with. But the Rogue didn't pan out. quick note though on the Secret Rogue, any tech card you have in it, you can play up to 5 times. And so even though he was targeting a warrior, the thinking was that with an ooze in the Secret Miracle Rogue, you can play it an additional 2 times off of Shadow Step, and then potentially 2 more times if you use your bounce effect off of the 1 mana 1/2 if you have a secret. Return
Blackjack
something.
Stunner.
Blackjack Stunner, that's the one. Which, even though it increases the mana cost by 1, all you really care about is that battle cry and destroying the weapons. So when formulating this lineup and doing the testing, one of our main thinking was on the warrior and how we wanted to beat it. And to go with that, there's ooze in basically all the lists. I think a key example of this is Monsanto had, I think, 15 weapon destruction or steal effects
17.
total in his lineup. 17?
He had every single deck he brought had 2 oozes, 2 sticky fingers, and the shaman deck also had a Harrison, and he went 4-1, including his first round beating a lineup with no hunter or with no warrior by sweeping Face Hunter, because all these hard control decks that happen to target warrior also really good against
Have a lot
Eagle
of
Horn
healing.
bows and have a ton of healing and taunts.
Yep.
Yeah. He also, by the
So-
way, one of my favorite things about the lineup, he and ETC built that together. And ETC said after 2 rounds into the tournament, he told his opponents GL but not HF because he knew they would not have fun.
Yep.
I
and
love
then
that.
proceeded to sweep a Soul Demon Hunter.
I think that's pretty hilarious and insightful.
Yeah.
He didn't say don't have fun. He didn't say have fun not because he didn't want his opponent to have fun, just because he knew they wouldn't.
He knew
That's
they
pretty.
wouldn't.
That's pretty great.
It's pretty,
Yeah,
yeah.
Monsanto tweeted the lineup saying, I'm not going to be making any friends today or this weekend,
That is correct.
which is true. He is single-handedly potentially making some of these rounds go very, very long. I think when he was on stream, he may have been the last match still playing in that round. Not positive on that, but it certainly seemed that way.
Yeah.
So yes,
And the lineup that he lost to, so ETC, the lineup that he lost to, he got swept actually by a different kind of hard target lineup. He lost to a warrior, and he lost to a control demon hunter that does not have soul fragments and does have 1 copy of inner demon. Today was a very strange day of Hearthstone.
I would expect to still beat that, but I don't know.
It got
One
3-0'd.
thing I
Got 3-0'd.
I will say about the control warrior that they had is by having such a density of weapon destructions, it does lose out on some of those tools, and so sometimes there's just a threat that you can't deal with because you don't have something like coerce or whatever to deal with it.
Yeah. What a weird day.
But
Wait.
you were saying something?
Oh, I was just gonna say inner demon double twin slice. That's 12.
It is. That's a lot.
That is indeed 12.
That your math is correct. But yeah, and Edward, you talked about a lot of factors that I think are actually surprisingly relevant. Prep for a tournament is about being ready to play in a tournament, not about having the best lineup, but about having the best lineup for you. Avoiding fatigue, super smart. Playing control decks, you got to be ready for that kind of day. You got to be ready for a day of Turtle Mage. And we're talking 5 rounds where everyone is roping every turn. It was 10 hours to play 5 best of 5s. 10 hours. That's so much Turtle Mage if you're bringing Turtle Mage. That's so much. And you look at these control heavy lineups, I wouldn't be able to do it. I would not be able to play Attrition Shaman and feel like I was doing the right thing in the tournament. But also, to your point, Glee knows Libram Paladin better than most people know it that he's playing against. And he can get the edges with that deck that other people are unable to get. Because nobody has time to test against everything in this format. Nobody has the time to test against everything. There's just no way you can do it. There are too many decks. So I really love the approach of playing what feels natural and playing what feels like not just is the best deck, but the deck that I have the best advantage with. Because even if those aren't the same thing, if you can get, 4.5%, if you can get an extra 4.5%, you better get it.
Yep. And so, you start with the data, I think, every time. It's always an excellent place to start. And because the data is really good at showing, I mean, it's kind of obvious, but it's really great at showing, in general, what are people playing, and in general, how do these matchups play out. I think that what it is not as good at showing is things like decks that either have very high skill caps or things like that comfort, right? If you're playing something a bit unusual, people won't have played against that as much. Something that happened in our testing was that to some extent made it a little skewed and a little awkward to evaluate, was that I got really good at playing against this Libram Paladin. And we were testing these matchups. I'd be playing Guardian Druid or other things, and it would look, a little worse than perhaps it would be against the field, because I just knew more of the things to do. And I understand, he said, like, well, I don't want to rely on my opponents playing suboptimally for my strategy. And I get that, but I tried to encourage him to, like, look, this Paladin is your most played deck. You're super comfortable with it. And most people are not going to be playing the way that I'm playing against it because they just haven't run into it as much. Like, I think it would have been a real shame if he did not bring the Paladin this weekend. Just like for me, I jammed so much aggro rogue that I would be, I don't know, I would feel weird not bringing this aggro stealth rogue to a tournament, because it has those games where I feel like I can't lose. Even with the nerf to Secret Passage, it feels quite strong. So sometimes you just have that comfort deck that you just know the ins and the outs super well. You've made the mistakes to try and not make them again, and that'll give you your best chance. But it's very easy to doubt, I think, particularly when you're preparing for such a big event. And he very nearly didn't play the Paladin. He did switch off Priest, which he switched from Priest to Face Hunter, which wasn't the worst switch, but it turns out he probably should have been playing both, and maybe swapped out the Rogue for the Face Hunter.
Yeah, there's the data doesn't show you which decks are most adaptable. The data doesn't show you which decks can be teched the most easily, which decks maybe have had advancements recently, which decks people will be less familiar against. Data isn't everything, unless the format is really stabilized. If you look at towards the end of Ashes, before the 5th nerf, before the DQA nerf, you probably had a pretty good idea of what the meta was going to look like, right? You knew how the Enraged Warrior or Aggro Demon Hunter matchup went. There wasn't going to be a lot of flexibility there. You weren't going to find any card that broke serve. You were probably playing both decks anyways, but you had to know how they functioned, and it was more about mastery, it was more about repetition. This early in a format this wide, it's more about what am I good at, what makes sense, and what can I learn on the fly. And it really depends as well what kind of player you are. Some people really like that Turtle Mage playstyle, where they want to figure out that puzzle at the end of the game and they can stay fresh the entire day. Other people are like me, and it's like, I don't got time for that. Get them. You just got to get them. And sometimes that means that I will play a more proactive deck to put pressure on people that maybe haven't seen it as much. And other times that means I will be unable to solve that situation in the moment and probably lose to a player that was more ready for that. There's a lot of variability. If you haven't played in a tournament before, the best thing to do to get used to the idea of what it feels like is to go play in some tournaments, join the listener series, run some qualifiers, whatever you want to do. But when it comes to building a lineup, it's more of an art than science. And there have been people that have tried to break down every part of lineup building to mathematics. And sometimes that doesn't really accurately reflect what your experience is going to be like. So you got to make sure that you use stats somewhat, but don't overly rely on them. And trust me, I love the data. Spend a lot of time on the data. Don't go too deep in charts and graphs. Be careful about that.
Yeah, I always think about, I don't know, there was a time, I feel like this came up a lot, was the Vicious Syndicate tier list versus the Tempo Storm tier list. And
Oh, you're trying to set me off, huh? That's what you're trying to do?
no, I'm not trying to set you off. I'm just saying that, like, there's the happy medium, right? You know, you want to look at both and make an informed decision from both the data and the input of people who, you know, play the game at a very high level, because they're each going to have certain things to offer. The data can't
How's the Tempo
drive
Storm
to
snapshot doing these
all
days?
the matches. I assume it's dead. I don't know. I haven't heard about it in a while. But
The informed
that
decision
way-
that we made was to look at the Vicious Syndicate one instead.
But I would say in replacement, you want to have people that you can talk to, either people on your friends list, in a Discord or something, right? That's gonna need. You're gonna want that play experience, that feel, right? That you only get from something versus from someone human, right? Because you know, when we were testing it out, in general, playing the ooze a whole bunch of times on the Secret Miracle Rogue was quite good against Warrior. Now, it ended up being not as great against other things, right? Because sometimes you gas out more easily, etc. But there's going to be occasionally matchups where you play them enough and you figure something out. And actually, the best example, I think, was for me. I always felt favored against Demon Hunter as aggro stealth rogue, just because that was one of the things we were testing. Was both like whether he would bring Demon Hunter or how, or whether he would bring the aggro stealth rogue. There were a lot of things that were floating around, and it's pretty close on the stats. But I think it's very close because it really comes down to how well each player knows the matchup. And I think for the Demon Hunter, you need the knowledge that that lifesteal weapon needs to be super juicy in the matchup. Unless you've got the second one, you can't typically afford to just use one for a total of 6 life gain in terms of just the charge and your hero power. You really need it juiced up with the twin slices and other stuff to be able to swing it the other direction. You also need to counter pressure. You need to be able to go face. And as the rogue player, I know that I'm just not trading, right? There's no apotheosis to worry about or anything. I'm just like throwing all the damage face as quickly as possible. You know, sometimes you save the Scorpid so that when they play their Shard Shatter Mystic, you Scorpid the Shard Shatter Mystic, and you don't hold on to something unless you have to combo it, because usually the way that rogue deck wins is by taking advantage of every mana crystal you have, squeezing the damage in as quickly as possible so that you can get them killed before they have a chance to stabilize. But on the stats, it's just a 50-50. And I think it's because you're going to get people of different experience levels from each side, right? There's going to be some rogue players that don't navigate it as well. There's going to be some demon hunter players that don't navigate it as well. And that's where the experience really comes in.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, a lot of this
moving-
is just like getting reps in, right? A lot of it is just getting some games in. You want to play on ladder too, even though ladder you're going to ban sometimes. Just learning the deck just to make sure you can adapt to something that you're not planning on targeting. Because again, the flexibility, the ability to learn a deck and learn all the matchups, including the ones you're not expecting, is pretty important. Because you're not always going to get good matchups, and you have to break serve to win a tournament. You have to be able to win an unfavorable to win a tournament, unless you just have the Giga Nuts lineup and you next level everybody. Unlikely to happen, especially in an event at this stage in the meta development. So really, is you got to dial in some games. You got to play a bunch. You got to test with other people. You got to use just enough of the stats, and then use the stats to check your feelings. But then use your feelings to check the stats, because you're not looking to play the best deck. You're looking to play the best deck for you. And you really want to make sure that you run it by somebody else and run some scrims. See how it works in practice. That's the best way to see. Just find someone else that's of an equal skill level and just like, all right, let's go. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, we have marked down here for testing. There's sort of 3 different levels. The basic form that everyone has access to and everyone does the most, and it's good, but it hits a wall at a certain point. That's the ladder testing, like I was saying. That's going to give you your most reps in with the deck, and just playing against whatever. But it's important that not be your only form of testing, because you're going to run into those weird decks sometimes. You're going to hit the occasional totem shaman or whatever, someone who's messing around. That testing sort of gets better the higher up on the ladder you go, but no matter what, you're gonna want to test with a partner so that you can do specific matchups, things that you're going to be seeing, and so you want to figure out if a deck you're considering bringing is really favored or not in the matchup, or just because you need reps on that particular matchup. And it's hard to do that without just finding someone to practice with, because there's no guarantees on ladder of what deck you're going to face. And something that we didn't get around to doing, but I would have liked to do, it takes a lot more time, is doing full practice matches. That means you're going with your practice partner and saying, okay, here's my 4 decks, here's the 4 deck lineup that I expect to be popular, that I want you to play, and we're gonna do the ban phase and just play a match like it was a tournament. And that sort of gives you different things to think about in terms of, we're not going to talk about queue order because that's a whole other thing, but gives you different things to think about. In terms of just how your ban strategy actually pans out, and it gets you in that feel of okay, I've got my 2 wins with this, I just need to get this last win. Like what deck is consistently being difficult for me to get that last win, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and these are the sort of things where a lot of top players will have difficulty vocalizing what they do. And you will occasionally get a super intricate theory article that is a really strict rule that also is like, but you should also break this rule a bunch of times. Because a lot of it's by feel, and this is what makes sense to me, but Hearthstone is hard to vocalize without concrete examples and hard to explain these concepts. I'll walk you through. So I play in THL, right? And this is grassroots best of 5 tournament series. I'll give the example of Pro because it's Open List Conquest, which is the most applicable to Masters Tours or Qualifiers. And really, my vibe this week was, this is the week where Mage is the trend. Mage is popular. I want to either beat it or ban it. It's going to be Turtle Mage or Cyclone Mage. I expect more Cyclone Mage, but it could be Turtle Mage. Right? It could be. And so what do I want to do about that? Where do I want to start? And I was thinking about the decks that I've been playing recently. And Paladin has been a pretty popular one. Said, okay, if I like Paladin and I don't like Mage, that means that I want to ban Mage. Because if I'm bringing Paladin, I'm banning Mage. And that comes with matchup experience. Because the things that Paladin does not want to deal with is Devolving Missiles, and Ray of Frost, and also Devolving Missiles. You don't want to see any of those cards. As Devo Missiles just end your entire life. It's like, okay, if I want to bring Paladin, and I'm thinking about banning Mage, what does Paladin beat? What does it beat? Pretty good against Warrior. Surprisingly good against Druid. And really good against Demon Hunter. So if I'm thinking about banning Mage, and I want to be good against Warrior and Demon Hunter, what else am I bringing? So I looked up the stats for Bomb Warrior. And I brought Druid, Hunter, Paladin, and Warrior. Because I want to beat Demon Hunter. I'm going to go big, right? Pure Paladin. I want to go with Malygos Druid. And then I want to beat Bomb Warrior. That's where Face Hunter comes in. And all these decks are also favored there too. And then I brought Enrage Warrior. Because Enrage Warrior, a ton of armor gain. Really good against the aggressive decks. Really strong against Bomb Warrior because you just out-armor them. Run them out of stuff. And really strong against Demon Hunter because you out-armor them and run them out of stuff. That was the thought process. Now, I can explain what I was thinking. But if I try to explain to you the concepts of how I landed at all those spots, we'd be here for a while. We'd be here for a minute. Because I've been playing in THL for 12 seasons, 13 seasons. It's been 4 years now of just building Conquest lineups once a week. It becomes more natural, more instinctive. And then getting the reps in the games, it makes more sense of how is this going to fit into the puzzle. So, what you should do, listener, get your games in, find a test buddy, practice, make sure that your lineup idea makes sense. In Conquest, you want to bully one deck and ban another. Think about that ban before you even start. Because what do I not want to deal with should influence every other decision you make. And get your game on.
And I think if you're looking at lineups of other people, and even if you're just totally stealing lineups from qualifiers, whatever, make sure that you're putting yourself in that person's mindset of why they did picked the lineup they did, because you need to figure that out to know what you're supposed to be banning. I've seen occasionally people will take a lineup card for card, and then you look at their bans, and clearly they didn't understand the lineup because they were banning the wrong deck.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times what you'll want to do, there's a website, Yay Tiers. Amazing website. Great website. And Yay Tiers indexes qualifiers and Masters Tours. And so for when you go to a winning lineup from a Masters Tour, it shows you what they played against and what they banned. And if you see the same class on the right side of the screen in their match history that's always banned, you get an idea of what they were thinking when they put this together. This is what I don't want to deal with. This is what my decks are not supposed to beat. These are the decks that if I brought the things in this lineup to ladder and I saw that class, I would lose. Because it's different. It's not the same thing. And you have to keep that in mind as soon as you start building your decks. If you have a Bomb Warrior deck and you are banning Priest, but you leave in Galakron, you messed up. Because the Galakron hero is meant to add more attack to damage your opponent, to kill them when they have a lot of resources. It's there to beat maybe Soul Demon Hunter. You may leave that in there to beat Soul Demon Hunter, but it's in there to beat Priest. And so if you're saying I'm going to target aggressive decks, I'm going to bring a Warrior with Risky Skipper and Armor Smith just to beat aggro decks, and then you leave in the Galakron even though you're banning the control deck, you misbuilt your deck. You got to make sure you think about what is this card in here to deal with. It's subtle, but significant. If you're bringing Turtle Mage and you're banning Warrior, and there are oozes in your deck, why are there oozes in your deck? You banned the Wrench Caliber. Take the oozes out. Play something else. That sort of thing. Does that make sense? This makes sense? It's so hard to explain these things.
Yeah, we could do like a bunch of explanations on lineup prep and all this and not cover everything, but hopefully the information we've given is helpful to people who are just getting into it, because yeah, I think the a big benefit of tournaments and tournament prep and stuff like this is it makes you better at Hearthstone in general, even if you mostly just play ladder and are just queuing single. You're going to have a deck that you're comfortable with, and building a lineup around that deck is perfectly fine, and you just figure out what you're good against and what you're not good against and try to mold a lineup around that. But then you're forced to play other stuff because you're playing a tournament lineup. You don't just get to play one deck unless you're playing specialist. Don't play specialist.
Yeah, just
and,
do something else that day.
Last hero standing sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. But
LHS is interesting. Specialist, I would rather solo queue and 4-stack BGs than play Specialist.
Yeah. But yeah, it's I think it's useful because playing other decks just makes you better at the game, and thinking about the game makes you better at the game. And whether or not you end up trying to qualify for a Masters Tour, or you just want to play in our listener series and make a lineup and have fun with it, I think all of those things just make you a better Hearthstone player and makes it more enjoyable because you win more. And you win more against better players, which also feels good. So, yeah, give it a try. Even if you don't even play in tournaments, I think the thinking about a lineup and how you would build it makes you better, because you're thinking about, okay, well, stats say that this deck is better than this deck. Why is that? What is? And then you're thinking about, well, these are the types of plays that make it beneficial. They probably lose if this happens in the game, and then you're thinking about how that affects future games that you play. It's all good stuff.
Yep, and it can make you play better on ladder. We have been recommending just stick with the deck if you want to learn this meta, and you got to learn how to win your bad matches. But sometimes, if you have been sticking with pure paladin, and all of a sudden your ladder becomes 60% mage, and you understand that matchup is not the sort of matchup you can really tech to fix, that maybe you need to switch off of it if that's the direction the meta is going, having the ability to understand that will save you time and energy. Because you're just not going to make that matchup better. Their 1-mana spells destroy your entire game plan. So if you say, I'm on pure paladin, and all of a sudden I'm seeing Cyclone Mage every other game, you got to play something else. And we don't normally recommend that sort of thing, but you have to be aware of, when is it me, and when is it the meta, and when do I need to grow as a player, or when do I need to change what I'm doing. And understanding why things are happening the way they are is the best way to gather that information that can help you in any competitive approach to Hearthstone. That's a good place to stop, don't y'all think? We good? We good? We good. All right. So, thank you everyone for listening, and we have many folks we'd like to thank as well. Check out our thanks section on the website at CoinConcede.com. You can find our contact info, show notes, and Patreon information. You can support our show at patreon.com/CoinConcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coinconcede. Like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/coinconcede. Like some CC swag, head over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Itinerant Wizard, Tony S. DK, and Carhu. We got some thanks to give here. Level 69 Hitmonchan, Big Spoon, twice. They subbed themselves, and they gave a sub to Breadsticks. Basestink and Bodicus. Thank you for your Twitch Prime, for your Twitch support. Really appreciate it. And I've got some coin concedes as well. The devs for making the game. Thank you for making the game. Cbit, listener and friend of the show. They got Legend early on and weren't enjoying queuing as much. So instead, they jumped into a Discord and co-opted a bunch of other people and helped them understand their deck, and helped 5 or 6 people get over the Legend line. And I really just love that spirit of cooperation. I think that's really wonderful. So Cbit, shout out to you. The Angry Chicken, shout out for having me on the show again. Was on the show, made one of the better puns I've made in my life towards the end of that show. I really enjoyed it. Wicked good, big props for your 3-0 sweep on my THL team. Go Pod people. And Verizon Fios, Concede to Verizon Fios, because I have been streaming for 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I have dropped not a single frame, despite uploading 5 gigs of data. Spectrum, you can piss off. Verizon Fios. This is not sponsored. This is not an ad read. They did not pay me. I just am paying less money for internet, and I'm getting faster speed. And Verizon is evil. All big major companies are evil, especially big telecom companies. But Verizon wants to screw over cable companies, so they're giving me way more than I would normally be paying for at a much lower price point, and that benefits me as a consumer, and I appreciate that. Yes.
That definitely, when you said after you said you hadn't dropped a single frame, you'll definitely have to edit in the "yay" soundboard. Definitely deserves a yay.
I'll mark down a yay. We'll mark that down here. Botticus. Coin Concede. Let's go.
All right. So this week I'm going to coin concede. So if you are a BG player that just wants to solo queue and you're really trying to improve your rank and you're a little bit down about the group queuing and how it affects your ability to win, this coin concede is for you. I'm sorry that the mode is in a less desirable spot, and if I was more invested, which I have definitely been in the past, I would be very, very upset right now. And just know that you're heard, and while I hope that you are expressing yourself in civilized manners and understand and trying to be understanding about the situation and that it's good for the game in the long run, I feel that the next week might be filled with less battlegrounds than you were hoping to play. So shout out to you, and hopefully it gets better next week.
Good coin concede. What about you, Edelweiss?
Yeah, so for me, it is just to all the applicants to Swagoi Gaming that we've gotten in. I put out earlier in the week on Twitter an application form for anyone who would like to join our America's Hearthstone team. We just, people have moved on, so we're looking to refill the roster, and it's, we're not the kind of team that can provide huge amounts of monetary assistance. It's more of a sort of meet every week, check in with each other, help each other when we can. Obviously, it gets more intense around the Masters Tour with our players that are competing in those. But Swagoi has been an amazing organization for me to be a part of, and it's very cool to be captain recruiting for the first time, because I haven't done any recruiting since I've been captain of the Hearthstone team. There were a couple people in that role before me, so it'll be an interesting experience. We're gonna look over the first wave on Monday, and I'm excited. And then
Captain,
besides
my
that,
captain.
Coin Concede. Besides that, Coin Concede to 1.5x speed for some podcasts. Not all podcasts. Doesn't work on all podcasts, but for some podcasts, it is. I finally tried it, and it is nice to get through certain things faster. So, even though I feel a little wrong for doing that, it has its uses, I'll say.
But sometimes you gotta go fast.
Sometimes you gotta go fast.
It's okay.
I honestly, certain podcasts, I almost feel as though my listening experience is just better.
Yeah.
Because if I'm listening to it at the regular speed, it'll occasionally be at a pace where my mind kind of wanders, because most of the time when we're listening to things, we actually comprehend a lot faster than we speak. So you'll be listening to things, and then your mind can wander because you're filling that processing space. But if I listen at 1.5, it's coming in very quickly, and so I just keep up on a more natural pace. I have to be paying a lot more attention to get the content because it's way easier to miss things. But
I try and slowly
yeah,
crank
for
up by 0.1x about every 3-4 months, just so I can slowly and slowly train myself to get used to the speed. But if I'm not driving and I'm trying to pay attention to a podcast, I have learned just like absolutely not. It just doesn't happen. But that is a different discussion about how people that are not neurotypical absorb information. We will not keep you here, listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in. And by the way, if you listen at 1.5x, respect. Big props. So keep calm and I don't know. Be good to each other. Seems like the best thing to add here. Keep calm and be good to each other. And if you see us on the ladder,
yeah.
coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
Very well.
All right. Fading out. Stop and stream. 0 frames dropped for the entire stream.
Your time is up.
That was the wrong button. Here, let's do this one. Good night,
Didn't
everybody.
get to hear it.
What do you
Is
mean?
it weird that I wanna? Is it weird that I wanna turn on my air conditioner and then put a blanket on?
No, it's not weird. All right, we're gonna stop streaming.
No.